Welcome back to another episode of Last Week Out. Just go around the room real quick and just introduce everyone that's in here. We've got Dr. David Slack on the keyboard. Not a world famous EDM DJ like I said last week. I fact checked him this week and found out that that wasn't true. However, still lays down pretty sick beats.
I'm that kind of girl.
We've got Anthony Tatum over here to my left. He's our conversationist. And he's got white shoes on today, which I feel like is a mistake. I don't know why someone would wear such white shoes because they're going to get ruined.
Well, it's Sunday.
That's true, but I don't see any holes in his jeans, so. And then we have Mr. I'm very, very excited for our guest, and I'm going to tell you guys a little story about this guest before I even introduce him. I don't even know where to begin, to be honest. All I know is that this man saved my dad's life once. And it was such a powerful experience. And I like to say it was the day I saw racism end. So for our audio listeners, because there is no video, Danny is a very stout black man with dreads. Okay? And then my dad is just your classic conservative man with a mustache. And
white as the bread in my cupboard.
And we had this big plan. It was like 60 people. We're all going to the Salt River. We're going to get on air mattresses and blow up boats, and we're going to float down like 2 miles down this river, and it's going to be like, it's this amazing experience and blah, blah, blah. So I'm telling my dad about it on the phone, and he's like, oh, man, I want to go do that. I'm like, yeah, you totally should. Go to Walmart, get an air mattress, blah, blah, blah. So he calls me like the day of, and it's my mom on the other end. She goes, what have you gotten your dad into? Does he need a life vest? Is this going to be dangerous? And I'm like, no, Mom, it's the Salt River. Like, if he does fall in, he's going to float. Haven't you ever heard of like...
You even know what salt is?
You even know what salt is? It's a nootropic. So she's freaking out. I'm like, Mom, it's going to be fine. He doesn't need a life vest. Just get the air mattress. So fast forward, we're all showing up at the Salt River, and I look down. I look at my phone, find out it's Category 4 high tide on the Salt River.
It was an aggressive day. It was an aggressive day on the river.
It was an aggressive day to be on the river.
It was rough.
So and there's a lot of us. There are so many of us.
About how many?
60.
Yeah.
I would say about 60 of us.
Whoa, that's not an embellishment, Danny? 60?
Like roughly 60 in multiple different pods tied together, people floating in all different directions. It was somewhat controlled chaos.
Okay.
Very dangerous.
So were you, your dad, and Danny tied together on the same pod?
We were at one point, and then we got tied. Here, let me just tell the story. So we're floating around, right? We're having a good time. And my dad kind of struggled to originally get on the mattress because he said, oh, I'm going to buy, the double stacked queen air mattress, which can be kind of hard to get on. So we're floating along, right? And what tends to happen when you start floating on this river is the tide, the current or whatever, starts to take you towards like the embankments and the walls.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of it's in the middle of the desert, right? So there's all these crazy trees just like protruding out from the embankments, and you start to go a little fast.
Yeah.
I would say you get up to 15, dare I say 25 miles an hour.
It's like, have you ever snowboarded and you don't necessarily know how to stop?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, I am going entirely too fast and I feel like my life is in danger.
Yeah, you put too much confidence in yourself.
I think that's what it's like.
It's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
So we're cruising along, right? And all of a sudden I look back and my dad got untied and he's just a lonely air mattress floating by himself. And I'm like, and I screamed to him and I said, Dad, do not get off the air mattress for any reason. And I started to get scared. I was like, oh my God. So we're cruising along, right? And I look back. My dad hits the embankment. There's tree branch, rips him off the air mattress, pokes a hole in the air mattress, and he's struggling. And in that moment, I realized, looking at my dad drowning, and I was like, this is what he went through my entire life when I was just fucking up and making horrible mistakes, and I was drowning, and all he could do was watch from the sidelines. And like I was like, my dad's about to die, and then I could just think of my mom just saying, "Does he need a life vest?" and just like being super upset because now dad's dead and it's my fault, because if he would have just had a life vest on, everything would have been totally fine. So I don't know what happens, but at some point we kind of float back together, and my dad's struggling, dude, right? And the sun's coming down and it's all orange outside, and I'm like, "Dad, just grab the boat, and then I just see Danny's hand come into the frame. And then I see my dad's hand come into the frame, and they grab each other's wrists, dude, like a strong handshake. And Danny pulls him up into the boat and saves his life. And then Danny takes his shirt off, and he's like, "Here, use this shirt to tie his boat to our boat." So I do that. And then we just float along, and everything's okay. And I remember my dad getting out and going up to Danny and just going, shakes his hand. "Thank you, Danny."
So here's the thing. This was like 2 some odd years. I think you still have that shirt.
I still have the shirt.
It was a shirt that I got in Thailand.
Oh, man.
And we were on this boat cruise in Thailand, and it's like this weird material. It's one of my favorite shirts, and I need to get that back.
Yeah, where is it?
Yeah, it's in my closet in a bag.
Yeah.
It's framed on the wall.
It's framed on the wall. I'm gonna show my grandkids this shirt. But you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this shirt.
It was like a movie montage moment, kind of. I didn't think about it at the time, but like, looking back at it.
You just
it was
acted.
Yeah, I don't know. He was just like flailing in the water and was like kind of close, and I was like, I don't know, man. Let me just reach the hand out and see what happens.
Yeah, it's the least you could do. You felt. But okay, so this is actually a fun little topic. Like those moments of heroicness that we've had in our lives, those are small. It might seem small, but can you guys think of any other? Like I don't have very many. I imagine a lot in my life. I remember I was going through hard times in my life, and I was like, man, it would be really cool if I could just find an act of nobility.
Yeah.
And that's what I was looking for. That would have been really amazing. And I'm having a little bit of trouble thinking, like, I don't think there's anybody walking around on this earth that's just like, man, Anthony Tatum saved my life.
Here's the thing. I didn't think it was like that big of a deal at the moment, right? It was just kind of like, all right, this is happening, and now this is the next thing. Like, you just kind of, that's what you do.
That's what you do.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Such a good man.
Yeah, I had so much emotion involved that when it happened, it just felt like I was just so relieved and so thankful to Danny for saving my dad.
You saved my dad.
Because I love my dad so goddamn much. And he saved his life.
What a beautiful moment.
And I think that's what happens, dude, is like you might get involved in some, like, you're like, you're walking down the street somewhere and someone's in help and you go to help, and to you it's not that big of a deal, but to them it's like the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing about heroism, like Superman saves a speeding train from crashing into something. It's just another day.
Just another day in his life.
Yeah,
It's just like super regular.
A day-to-day activity for me.
Yeah.
I'm just out here killing it. Well, and I think that's what an amazingly powerful introduction, Danny. I'll tell you what, our last guest, Bird, didn't get an introduction. On Tinder. They were like, Bird, he owns a business. He was like,
He is my nicotine plug.
yeah,
That's what-
he hooks us up with the vapes.
No, Bird's a good dude.
No,
Yeah,
Bird's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was kind of wild. Definitely a good time though. Like, yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like a natural reaction, and it was super cool. And I'm excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming. And so we brought on Danny. We're really, really excited to have him. I think that conversationally, he's as strong as anyone we could have. I would consider Danny to be the more educationally inclined. Not that some of our friends aren't intelligent, but Danny pushes himself in his...
Some of our friends are definitely unintelligent.
We don't. Let's not get into that on the podcast. I mean, I love them all
kidding.
equally. I want you guys to know that. All of the friends listening, you're all smart to me, guys. And so, Danny, what are you doing currently in your life, maybe to broaden your education? I know you were an avid. You read. Am I right on that?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, I think I have a problem with commitment.
Okay.
So I read, but I currently have 15, I think, books that I've read a quarter to a half of. There's a bookmark in them right now. There is a bookmark in there, and I intend to finish it. And then all of a sudden, some other subject will interest me, and I'll have to buy that book. Right, so I got one on like super intelligence about AI and how it's gonna change the world in like doomsday scenario.
Yeah.
A couple like poetry ones, a couple of like I don't know, here's how you become a better person type stuff. But I read half of a book and then my interest jumps to something else and I have to come back to it later. So there's that. I'm in school right now. I'm doing this like data analytics program. So I'm like learning coding and I've
Learn to code.
Yeah, I'm like learning Python and SQL and using APIs to like pull in data and create maps. And it's a lot of stuff that is a lot more interesting than it sounds because I'm really stubborn. And what you do in that situation is you fuck up and then you find out why you fucked up and you change it and you realize that didn't work. So you change it again and you realize that didn't work. And if you're stubborn and pretty decent at like solving problems, you'll have some success is what it seems like.
This
and
is
I'm
your realm.
Both of those things. Like I am very stubborn. Like I have to find the answer to whatever the problem is. So I was literally up till 5 a.m. on Friday and then fucking 3 a.m. yesterday trying to get a map to populate with color codes based off of some other numbers on how they rank, how the states rank.
Okay.
And yeah, so I'm using that to hopefully like, I don't know, build programs, do better data analysis at work, make more money.
How did we get here? I mean, when you were a kid, were you a stubborn kid?
Yeah, man, I was always pretty stubborn. Here's the thing. So my parents are stubborn as fuck, right? And they're immigrants, and I think this is like an immigrant thing, right?
Yeah.
Like the parents just are unreasonable and whatever. And I think I got it from them, right? But like, yeah, once I come to like a decision, here's the thing. I think a lot, and I'm like super left brain, so I'm rational. So once I like get to a conclusion, like you got to give me evidence that I'm wrong.
Hard facts.
Like factual, like it has to make sense, and I have to look at it and be like, oh shit, okay, yeah, here's where I went wrong. This is why. Cool, I'm going to change my mind.
The first Google page isn't going to cut it for you. You're going to need a few of those.
Yeah, like if we're looking at like brainblogger.com, I'm not entirely convinced that that's the
who owns brainblogger.com.
Yeah, like, what's going on there?
David, get that pulled up. No, I'm just you don't
so like who, you know what I mean? So whatever. So I'm trying to find the answer to stuff, and like I can't fail. I can get stuff wrong, learn why I got it wrong, and then figure out a solution to it. And I've always been interested in like why. I don't know. I was like an observer in my house a lot growing up, so maybe it came from there. But I'm trying to like figure out why things are happening. I used to like my dad used to help me take apart radios when I was a kid, and like rebuild them and stuff like that. And I think part of me is just like sad that I didn't keep doing that and become like an engineer or something. So this is like my way back into that.
When your parents came here, were they married when they came to America?
That's a really good question. So this is where I feel like a horrible person. I'm
happy I asked.
I don't know. I don't think so. And here's why. So my dad came over as like a political refugee. He was like fighting the government in like guerrilla warfare and doing raids on like the...
Where?
In Ethiopia, right? Okay. There was like this oppressive government and they shut down the schools and he like got taken to a military prison. He had to like walk on rocks on his knees as part of punishment. So like him and his buddy escaped.
Holy
and they
shit.
Like hitchhiked to Sudan and they were able to flee Sudan and come to America as like a political prisoner. It was this wild ass story that he told me when I was like 14 when we went back to Ethiopia and we're like in these mountains. And there's this guy who has a AK-47 that he's walking around with, right? In case like some wild orangutan tries to like get wild or something, right? So I'm sitting there like, oh, that's wild. Like I want to hold the gun, and my mom's freaking the fuck out. And my dad's like, yeah, whatever. Like it's cool. And he's like starts telling me about like his history, and he shows me like bullet wound scars like in the back of his ear and one in his chest. I'm like, where do these come from?
Holy shit! Your dad is Nelson Mandela's hero.
Dude, my dad is like a fucking gangster apparently, and I didn't realize this. Like I thought my dad was just like this like regular ass dude that just like works and goes to sleep and like
no wonder you saved Chad's
trouble.
dad. It's it's deep ingrained in your bloodline. Heroes after heroes after heroes.
Yeah, it's fucking wild, right?
Okay.
And like I think we all think that like our dad's like, I don't know, like I always thought he was just like a regular ass dude. He's telling me like, yeah, we used to, you know, in the middle of the night we would come and we would raid the military compound and we would steal all their guns and then we would use it against them.
Yeah.
And he's like describing guerrilla warfare. I was like, my dad was a guerrilla warfare guy. Like
And you're like, I saved a guy in the Salt River once.
Yeah, so I think we're
During
even.
high tide.
During high tide. Yeah, that's a big
don't
part.
minimize
It
it.
was-
Full moon.
It was basically like a hurricane
Chad would be
happening.
without a dad right now, David,
I wouldn't
so
be
don't
here if
so
it wasn't for that, because I would have never been born.
How many people do we know with daddy issues? If we can make sure there's one less, then, like, I feel like I've done my part in life, you know?
You saved a lot of people some problems.
Your dad's life sounds like a J.J. Abrams
Okay, and
movie.
then your mom
So my mom came a couple years after him, I think.
from Ethiopia as
From
well.
yeah, so they both came from Ethiopia in like the 70s or something. And here's the other thing: like Ethiopian culture is really weird. It's like super secretive. You don't like talk about private stuff a lot, like even within the family, right?
Okay.
And the other side of that is, so like I was born in Phoenix, and like for whatever it's worth, and I see why they did it. But my parents didn't teach me their native language, right? It's called Amharic. I only speak English. So like I picked up a little bit when I was a kid, just like hearing it around the house. But they would talk to each other in Amharic, and then I'd be like sitting there like, all right, I caught 4 of, like, it'd be like if you went down and like heard people talking in Spanish right now.
Right.
Like, I don't know, maybe you're fluent in Spanish. I'm not entirely sure.
Poquito.
Yeah, más o menos, right? So like I could hear, 7 different words, and be like, this is the thing they're talking about. But it's not like we're having a conversation, right? Like I'm just like overhearing it. So like I'm in my house as a kid, and there's like multiple other people living with us, which is a whole other tangent. But like everyone's speaking that language. So I'm not hearing the stories like at dinner time and that kind of stuff. I'm kind of just like sitting there observing. So like the end result of that is I don't know a lot of shit about like their history and background and like when they got married, and like I don't know, maybe I'm an asshole because I could probably just ask, right? But hey,
No,
what year?
when you're a kid, that's how you learn about your parents. They'll be fighting in the other room, and you're listening.
Yeah.
and then they come out, and you're like, I heard you in there. I heard what you said.
This sounds like experience.
Yeah. Oh no,
That
this
you're-
is experience. Yeah, I've got multiple stepdads. I've learned everything from fights in the other room. That's just how it works.
I remember hearing fights, but like it was in a different
Another language.
Yeah.
So they come out and they look at you and they're like, we're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, I'm confused. I'm like, no, you didn't. I heard the glass breaking. Like, that's not fine. That's not normal.
That was fun in there.
Yeah, I'm
That
like,
was
I don't
fun
know
for
what's
us.
happening. Like, are they fighting with each other? Are they fighting about something else? Do I have anything to do with it? I'm confused. I'm going to play Super Mario.
Yeah. Did you have siblings?
So that's the other, like, weird. The more I talk about this, the more I realize, like, my
But
childhood's
you grew
not
up.
normal.
You grew up with. It sounded like there was other people in the home.
Yeah, so this is what happens, right? When you're foreign, I think most foreign people do this. Maybe not most. I don't know. My family certainly did. You bring people over and like you sponsor them, right? Because it's hard as fuck to get a green card and like get into America. Like this shit is difficult.
Well, and when your dad's
Yeah.
a fucking hero, he's gonna bring as many people over and try to
Yeah.
help them get their feet out here.
Yeah, so that's basically what happens. I think my parents really are heroes. Like they ended up starting a church later on. So, anyways,
Can we get your dad on next week?
yeah, probably. Yeah,
That would probably be really nice.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I would probably
Implement
learn
it,
a
put him
lot
on
of
his
stuff,
docket.
to be honest with you. So yeah, they like have like their sister's kids and their brother's kids, and like so they're like rich in Ethiopia because like $1 here is like fucking 50 over there or whatever. So like they have like live-in fucking maids and service people or whatever, like do the laundry, clean, cook, that kind of
In
shit.
Ethiopia.
In Ethiopia. So like those people will have kids and they'll like bring them over here to like give them a better life and education and that kind of shit. So between the age of 3 and like 16, there were, I think it was 10 or 11 people that came, lived with my family in my home for 2 years or more, and then like left and did whatever they do with their life, right?
Do you stay in contact with any of them?
Literally none of them except for like one.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm like, so the first two is when I'm like, first day that I remember they were there, right? Like I don't know what was happening before this. I don't have memory back that far. But like from the first day I remember, they're living there. So it's me, my mom, my dad, and these 2 other people, and in this house, right? And then like a couple years later, they're gone, and I'm just like, where the fuck? Where did they go? And my parents are like, oh yeah, they moved out, and it's like normal as hell to them, but like I'm not used to this shit,
Right.
And then like later on, and they're like older, right? So my parents are like, oh, these are your uncles. I'm like, all right, cool, uncles. Like I know what an uncle is. I know what an aunt is. And then there's another one that came over that was 8 years older than me. And my mom and dad was like, this is your brother. Because, like, how are you going to explain this concept to a 7-year-old? Because I'm, like, 7 at the time, right? Like, we could tell the 7-year-old, like, yeah, I have a sibling whose son is in Ethiopia, and, like, the school sucks, and, like, they're going to come here and get a bet. Like, no, you're going to be like, this is your brother. Like, fucking go play. You know what I mean? So, like, from 7 to, like, whatever, I'm, like, naive. I'm like, this is my brother. And then all of a sudden, like, things start, like, not adding up. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, this is my brother. Like, why was he in Ethiopia and not here? And
Where's he been?
yeah, like, what's going on, right? He doesn't look like me at all. Like, there's a bunch of just things that aren't. But, like, when I try to go ask my parents about it,
Yeah.
the culture is super, like, private, and you don't talk about things at all, basically. And, like, I grew up in a different culture, right? Like, I'm fully, like, Americanized, if you will.
Right.
And it's, like, this weird thing to where, like, you know what? I'm just not going to ask the question. I'm just going to go about my life over here.
Right.
And, like, not ask the question.
And that's what being a kid. Kids are so resilient. It takes a while before we even realize something's different. And then when we finally do, it's like, oh, wow. Guess
Yeah,
it's just,
then it's like $200 a week in therapy. But
there
whatever.
you go. Yeah, later. In your 30s. In your 30s.
Yeah. No,
And
it's
so,
cool.
well, what a beautiful backstory that we have so far. So the point of the podcast, initially, when we threw it on the paper, and Chad's the best at explaining it, but we like to talk to people and kind of hear a lot about them, you know, what they're doing now. And I think you've painted a good picture. And then talk a little bit about maybe a struggle that they've overcome, how they did it. And so it kind of gives our listeners a opportunity to maybe have some relatability to it, but then also to kind of build maybe potential solutions for whatever issues are going on with them. Because I know that for us, what we had all found was we had this amazing community of people who had pretty much lived in a lot of the experiences, like some that I have never, but I would know how to work through them with tact and grace, not because I am a man who intuitively has tact and grace, but because I'd watched someone walk through it. And so for you, when I kind of talk about a hard experience or something that you've had to work through, that you feel comfortable talking about, what do you think of?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I've been an observer my entire life when I think about it, right?
A stubborn
observer. Yeah, absolutely. And you ever have this sense that, like, the things that you, like, your conception of yourself does not match anybody else's conception of you?
Yeah, that's
Does
about
that make
10
sense?
minutes in the morning, I think, for most people. You have that
Yeah.
feeling in the morning.
So I read this book about it. I actually finished this one. It's called One Nun in 100,000, right? And this character is, like, married or whatever, and his wife makes a comment about his crooked nose. And he's like, I don't have a crooked nose. And she's like, no, your nose is crooked. And he, like, goes into the mirror and he, like, finally recognizes, like, holy shit, like, this entire time she's been seeing me as this guy with a crooked nose, but I've been living this life as a guy without one. Mm-hmm. And that, like, fucking snowballs, right? And it's like, okay,
what else is there?
Well, yeah, if my wife sees me as this guy, what does my boss see me as? And like, so the one is, like, me, my one conception. The nun is, like, nobody else like, there's 4 people in this room right now, and all 3 of you have a different opinion of who I am. Like if someone was like, hey, describe Danny, like, you would say different things.
So would there be 4 or 5 perceptions of you, including yours, and then the actual?
Well, I think that's the nun. The nun is there is no, what is the actual?
Okay.
Right? If none
Isn't
of
it a collection of all of ours? I don't even know.
Yeah, so that's the 100,000. It's like there's 100,000 different ones.
Oh, wow.
And, like, I don't know. That's so like, I don't know how to describe myself, because I'm just like, I don't know. Like, does this match? Like, there's no logical evidence for, like, me to say this equal. Like, my mind goes, like, wild with that kind of shit.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's an area that I can't answer. So the end result of that, though, is, like, I feel like I don't really connect with people on this, like, emotional level, right? So you add that to the part that, like, my entire life, people have been coming, living with us, leaving. I'm out, right? Like, you're gonna be gone at some point. So I'm not going to, like,
Connect.
care much if you disappear. which sounds callous and like horrible.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe helpful in the world today, but has it caused some stressors, like relationship stressors? Probably, I would guess. If I had to.
Absolutely. No, it's like a massive fucking issue, right?
Right.
So like, all right, cool. How do I like get through this, right? Like in high school, I joined sports teams, right? And I play sports, and I have like my teammates, right? And like we have this thing, and we're teammates, and like I hang out with a couple of them after, like outside. But I don't talk to any of them anymore, except for like one on Facebook about basketball stuff. But anyways, like I have this area where I hang out with these people. And then I just start like getting loaded. Like I started like fucking smoking weed, doing like coke, all that type of shit to like blot this out.
You didn't know that's what you were doing when you were that age, did you?
Hell no, I didn't know that was
You just tried it and you were like, woo!
I tried it. Like so literally what happened was I was playing basketball one day. It was during practice, and after practice, one of the kids was like, hey man, you want to come smoke a blunt? And I'm 14, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck a blunt is, but like if you want me there, then yeah, like I'll be there. I just want this acceptance, so sure. So we go to his house, and they like do all the work because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And then I've been an observer, right? So like the first guy lights it, and he does what he does, and he like hits it or whatever, and then he passes it to the next guy, and the next guy hits it, and I'm like, okay, so this is when it gets to me. This is what I do. All right, cool. He's breathing in. This is what he's doing. So I just mimic what he does.
Did they know that you had never done that before?
I don't think they did.
You didn't even need to tell them that.
I don't.
I'm a fucking pro.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like I'm good at mimicking and being a chameleon and changing who I am based on who I'm around, like in order to win their approval, like all that kind of stuff, right? So I see what they're doing, and I'm like, okay, let me just do what they did. And I did, and I got fucking stoned to shit, and I started like doing push-ups, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing, Danny? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I wonder what like doing push-ups will be like while I'm high. And it was like I don't know. I finally felt like connected to other people, and I was like, all right, this is cool. This is like what I'm supposed to be doing. Like that's fine. But I know that like I'm 14. I know weed's bad. I'm not gonna do this a lot, and like I don't for the next couple years. And then like junior, senior year of high school, I'm like smoking weed before class out of an apple, going to school and like still doing the basketball thing and like maintaining this like perception that I'm like a perfect little child. Random tangent. I'm really into music. You guys have songs that take you back to like a certain point in your time?
Yeah,
like
music for me can be like a vehicle for time travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wild.
No paper and hole folding necessary. Like we're good, right?
By the way, for our listeners, that insight is we were talking about time travel prior because God, we're so intellectual here, and we were laughing about how anytime you see someone try to explain time travel, they just take a piece of paper, they hold it in their hands, they put 2 dots on it, they go, this is time, this is where we are, this is where we want to be, and normally you'd have to go across this line. You go, okay, yeah, no, I can understand that. Then they just fold the paper in half, right? They just fold it in half. They're like, boom, push a pen through it. That's fucking time travel, baby.
Seriously, Google any YouTube video with time travel right now, and that I think it's a required part of the explanation. Like you have to have the folding piece of paper in there.
Literally, the best scientists on Earth have only been able to utilize paper to explain this. So Danny, it's a vehicle for time travel. Music is.
Yeah. So like there's certain songs that take me back to like when I was 16 and living upstairs in my parents' house, and I'm like smoking weed out of the apple, getting ready to go to school, and like
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah,
yeah. No, dude, I'm like super into underground hip hop. So it was like Apathy, self-titled,
Andre Nicotina,
Rise. It was like a lot of East Coast underground styles of Beyond.
Papoose.
2% of people listening are like, yeah, I know these artists.
Yeah, I literally don't know any. I'm just throwing ones that I might know.
Papoose was in there. Immortal Technique was in there. Yeah, Dance
go.
with the Devil and that kind of. That song was wild. So it's like a bunch of that, like old school boom bap, East Coast underground rap, essentially, is what I was listening to. And like when I hear that today, it takes me back to that moment. And if I'm being completely honest, like those were some of the best moments. Like I didn't have any worries or cares or like, you know, I was just like enjoying life.
You were connecting.
Yeah, I was like connected to a bunch of people and like felt comfortable and everything was just good. Right? Like I can just go and be free and like light, and I don't know how to explain it with words, but like it just felt right.
Well, I feel it right now.
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, it was great. So yeah, I don't know, man. obviously that like progressed, and college was wild. I joined a fraternity, which was weird.
Ooh, which fraternity? You want to call it out? Like, hold on, shameless plug.
Yeah.
Dad, you ready to hype this up with him?
Sure, Sigma Phi Epsilon, Sig Ep. So we got kicked off campus after I got to live in the fraternity house, right? And like, I don't know how to. If you knew me before I went to college, I was the dude that was like, all right, like frat bros are fucking weird and like you gotta buy your friends and all this type of lame shit. But I get to U of A and I don't really know anybody, so like I cling on to like the two people that I do know out there, and one of them's like, I'm gonna go rush these fraternities, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck that means, man, but I'm not really doing shit tonight, so I'll just roll with you, I guess. So we go, and I'm there, and one of the dudes that lives in the house is like, hey, man, you want to go smoke a bowl? I'm like, yeah, of course. Why would I not do that? So we go do that, and then, like, someone else does the same thing. And I'm like, oh, these guys are kind of cool. Like, they just, like, hand out free weed. Like, I'm down with that. So I go back again the next day, and, like, the same shit starts to happen. Before I know it, I'm, like, pledging.
You're in the gang.
I'm in the gang. Yeah. And, like, for the first couple fucking months, like, all they really did was, like, get me high. And I was perfect. Like, that seemed like the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, that
like,
sounds great.
It seemed like the right thing to do.
Good people to have around.
Yeah. So, like, we're having parties on, like, Thursdays and Fridays. A bunch of girls there. There's a bunch of alcohol. Like, I love college at this point, right? I think, like, the first party, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, right? So, like, I go to this house party that one of the dudes in the house is having. I, like, show up. I get pissed drunk because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm talking to some random chick, and she's like, do you want to go somewhere a little bit more quieter? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. And, like, I still don't grasp this concept, right? So we walk outside, and we're, like, in this fucking parking lot. And I'm like, all right, cool. I guess quiet here. And then she started blowing me in the parking lot.
Hey.
And I was very confused. Like, I was great. And then, like, it took me a while to register, like, this is what this means. Like, this is what goes somewhere a little bit quieter means. Right?
I'm that kind of girl.
So, was that the first time you ever got fellatio?
No.
Okay.
We used to go to, the first time I ever got it was in high school by this chick. It was freshman year. It was in the boys' bathroom. And her brother actually came into the bathroom. Yeah, so we were in the handicap stall because there was more room.
So did you get head and a fight in that same day?
No, so here's the thing. Her brother, because she was being picked up by her brother to, like, go home or whatever, and we were, like, pretty late after school. And I had, like, it wasn't basketball season yet, but we still went to the gym to, like, shoot around, so I was supposed to be in there. So I was late, obviously. And her brother's, like, looking for her. And I didn't think about this until now, but
right now.
Yeah, until literally just right this moment. But if her brother was like, I'm looking for my little sister.
Why did she go into the boys' bathroom?
Yeah.
What you're saying?
Yeah, why would he go into the boys' bathroom?
He knew.
Yeah, I don't think this was her first time. Like, I think this was common for her, I think, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, never mind. I don't want you to say her name on the podcast.
Nah, I'm not going to do that. But anyways, he goes in the bathroom and he's like saying her name, and she's like freaked out. I'm like, just shut up, just don't say anything. And then he like leaves the bathroom, and so we end up finally like walking out of the bathroom, and the principal is standing above the fucking. There's like a 2-story area of the school, and the principal's looking directly down at us both walking out of the guy's bathroom. And I'm like, fuck, I gotta go to practice. I just walked the fuck off.
Was there a talk that followed that? Nothing?
No. The weird thing was
he just
like,
waited. He just looked you in the eyes and let you know.
Yeah, like he knew. He knew that I knew that he knew. And like I went into the gym. People were like, where were you? And I was like, oh man, don't worry about it. I got lost. Fuck. I'm just weight room. Okay, cool.
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's go to the weight room. That was the first time. It was a really weird experience.
All right. Well, and I know that right now we're probably going to end up taking a quick little break. But when we come back, I think we have some good context. Maybe talk about connection a little bit. But we'll be back in a moment.
And now, Clips with Friends with Richie P.
I fucking hate people that drive Ford Explorers, just like regular Ford Explorers around. And the reason is because, like, that's the car that cops drive around. And I don't understand why people can't buy, like, just another car. Why do they have to buy a car that cops drive around and undercover cops drive around? Like, I don't know. I don't fucking get it, dude.
we're back. Had to take a little break, ingest some nicotine. Nicotine is a nootropic, for those of you that were wondering. If you don't know what that is, you should Google search it.
It's not spelled how you think it is.
It's not. I don't know how it's spelled, but
autocorrect for the win.
Google will spell it for you because that's the age of technology we live in now. Yeah. But we were just taking a break. We were talking about, kind of talking about like self-esteem issues and things like that. So I was overweight most of my life, and when I originally met Danny, he was a pretty burly guy as well.
I was fat, dude. You don't gotta show me. I was fat.
He was fat. I was fat. We were both fat, right? But we don't look like that today. Today we've got tight, supple skin and we're shredded and breaded. I still smell like Similac. And we're looking good, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue because when we took our break, we sit outside and it's always we kind of loosen up a little bit and have a couple of laughs. And I think that in Danny's discussion, when we're talking about connection and we're talking about these things that we've dealt with and things we're trying to overcome, they kind of started talking about it. And for me, I don't know, you guys can't see me, but I've always been underweight. And then my friends who have been overweight, it's been a really beautiful thing to see them implement lifestyle changes that not only change the way that they look, but also their actions, the way they feel, the way they look at themselves. And we were kind of discussing how powerful it is to see you say it's a pragmatic perspective. It's like, this isn't a theory. This isn't somebody tried to sell you something. This actually happened for these guys. Like when I look at Chad, and Chad was, what were you, like 70 pounds heavier than you are now?
Yeah, I was like 265.
And what are you now?
215, I think.
And he looks great. And he's hiking and climbing on stuff. And it's insane. But what it's done for him in the realm of his relationships with people, as far as connecting on an outdoor level and having fun, and then the way that he views himself is just really beautiful. And I think that's kind of what I'd like to kind of hone in on. So Danny, you were overweight. Did that bother you for a long time?
Yeah, no, absolutely it did. Right. So like, let's take it back further than that. Right. In high school, I'm like I'm always playing sports. That's how I engage with people. That's how I connect with people. That's how I like. It was kind of like an escape from like life, which is really weird for like a 14 to 17-year-old to be like, I need to escape from life. Right. But like it was the place where I felt the most at peace, right? It was like on a basketball court playing the game, right? So like the result of that is I'm always active. I'm always running around. So I'm like I was like underweight growing up most of my life. Like my mom's a nurse, and I was telling Chad, she used to like take Ensure drinks. She works at a nursing home. So she used to take Ensure drinks and bring them home to like, be like, Danny, you need to gain weight. Like,
you need to bulk up
a little bit, right? So like, that's like my life. Then I go into college, whatever. And then at some point, 5-6 years ago or whenever it was, I was sitting in my room, and I like went to tie my shoes to like go leave for the day, and like I had to like hit weird angles in order to be able to reach. I had to pivot in order to like reach my shoelace, and I had to like. I did the and like leaned back and lifted my foot up in order to tie my shoe, and I'm like, this is how the fuck
did we get here?
Yeah, how did this fucking happen?
That's everything, right? You kind of find out way too late.
Yeah. It was just like, all right, and mind you, at this point, like the signs were there, right? Like the Burger King drive-through people knew me by name because I would go there every day and order Cinnabons. They had the mini Cinnies that I used to every day. I used to get salted caramel milkshakes delivered from Uber Eats or Postmates every day. I used to get a cinnamon roll not all at the same time. I would go through phases, but like I don't do anything halfway. Like everything is
all the way, all
100.
in.
Yeah, like 0 to 100 real quick, right? Like all the way in, right? So like I don't know. It just like kind of hit me like this has to fucking change. Like this has to change. Right. So, and a lot of that I think was affecting like how I perceive myself. Right. Cause I'm like perceiving myself as this like person who's like active and athletic and like, this is like the body figure that I want and like all that kind of shit. And like, that wasn't my reality at all. And like, all right, cool. Like, what do I do? And I think you were mentioning, right? There's like all these like you can buy something off of some TV commercial that like electronically shocks your abs for 30 minutes a day, and it's like, hey, you'll get 6-pack abs doing this. And I was like, well, probably not, but like it sounds good. But like there's a difference with being able to see that happen in somebody's life, right? So like I just asked a bunch of people. Like I knew a bunch of people that were into like weightlifting, competing in competitions and bodybuilding, and they were personal trainers and like, or they got trained by somebody and like all this kind of shit, right? So I just like became a information vacuum, right? I'm like, what do I do?
Again. Yeah. Back into your observing.
Dude, back into observing, right? And like understanding, okay, how do you do this? There was a guy at work that I worked with that was like super into bodybuilding. I was like, hey man, I need to lose weight. Like, what did you do? So he like teaching me about macros and like tracking macros and like how to identify how many you should have each day, and like MyFitnessPal, which is an app that you can like track your food. And I was fucking diligent, dude. For like a good 3 months, I tracked every single thing that I consumed.
How do you track it? On your phone?
On your phone. You literally just scan the barcode and it'll populate so the macros are just the fats, carbs, and proteins. Right, and and you set a goal based on, you like do this calculation based on your age, weight, height, how active you are, and it tells you like this is what you're, and if you want to gain or lose weight, and it'll tell you like, all right, cool, you need this amount of protein, this amount of carbs, this amount of fats.
Yeah.
So I set it up and I had the goals there, and then I downloaded MyFitnessPal, and every meal I eat, I scan it. And there's like a schedule to how you should eat, right? And like when you should have good carbs versus bad carbs, right? Simple versus complex. And when how much protein you should have, and how you should space it out during the day, and what times of the day you should eat, and like all of this kind of stuff.
Holy.
So I literally like, bro, we live in the 2000s. Like,
it's at your fingertips. Is that what you're saying?
You
could just
have access to everything.
Okay.
Like, any sort of information you need is out there.
So, and just for our listeners, just really quickly, because for me, it's like, what was the aggregate for that change? It's like that day you were tying your shoelace, but had it cropped up to you before, like, this is an issue, I would like to fix this? Had that like kind of trickled through your mind a few times prior to that potentially you'd like to get in really good shape, or I'd like to do this? Was there ever any trial and error prior to the day that you were just all in? You're talking about complex carbs and your data tracking. Because for me, it's like I kind of vacillate between like, it's like I'll wake up some mornings, I'll do 15, 20 push-ups, and then the next day I'm like, I don't think I want to do that anymore.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think there's a lot of those like false starts, right? Like, I should get in better shape. Like, I want to keep playing basketball, and I go to the gym and I play one game and I'm fucking winded and I'm like, all right, man, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that happened a lot. And like, for better or worse, I think that the thing that pushed me over the edge was that whole like self-esteem thing, where like I felt kind of shitty about myself. And if I'm being completely honest, there was like some chick that I was like fooling around with or whatever.
Yes, this is what yes, Danny.
Yeah, this is the aggregate for my story as well.
Yeah. and like, it always comes back to that, right? It's like, there was some chick I was fooling around with, and then she started like fucking with some other dude, and I was like, damn, dude, if I wasn't like fat, I would, that wouldn't have happened, right? This fucking hurts. I'm gonna show her.
Oh, wow.
Right? And it was like that level of like, this is like, I'm gonna fucking...
Just really quick, we don't have to go too deep. Has she hit you up since?
I'm still like friends with her. Like, we're still cool, and like we like fooled around afterwards a little bit. Like, here's
Danny
the thing.
for the win.
We got to the level of like connectedness or relationship that I am capable of having right now.
And I want to come back to that too, but
okay.
So then you're tracking all of this.
Yeah.
Right? You're tracking all of this data. You're getting in really like, how long did it take before you start seeing, oh my God, this is working?
Yeah, because I'm like an instant gratification dude, right? So like for 1 week in, I'm like, I gained 2 pounds. This is bullshit, right? But like, thankfully, the people that I talked to were like, hey man, look, this is what's gonna happen. You're not gonna notice shit for like the first couple weeks. Trust me, it's working. Like, don't worry about that. Don't weigh yourself 4 times a day. Just trust the process and it'll work. And the thing is, it worked for them. So it's like, all right, cool. Like, you have some standing to base this off of. Like, I'll trust you. And I think I started noticing results maybe a month in. Like, I started noticing, and it wasn't necessarily on the scale. It was more like, okay, now I'm going to the gym and I can play 3 games. Now I'm going to the gym, I can play 4 games. Now I can lift a little bit more weight. Or I feel better when I wake up. I have a little bit more energy. It's easier for me to wake up. It's easier for me to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like those types of things, right? And then a couple months in, I start seeing it on the scale. I start seeing it in my body. And then like 3 months in or so, like I'm seeing people that, don't see every day, but maybe I see them once a month or twice a month or whatever. And they're like, damn, dude, you look like have you lost weight?
That's powerful.
That's the most powerful thing ever.
You're just like and that's say nice things to people when they look at. I know that I mean that means so much to me, even if it's clothes or something. It's just like, hey,
yeah, people don't give compliments. Like that's not a thing that happened. Maybe it does, and I just don't see it. But like, just make that shit up. Just walk up to someone today and just be like, did you lose weight? And like, it'll probably make them, unless they're like underweight and whatever and like have that like struggle, like it'll probably make their fucking day.
That's one of my favorite things to do. I remember last summer when we went, Anthony and I and some people went to Atlanta, Georgia, and we're going through the airport in Atlanta, and there's this TSA lady who's checking IDs, right? And she's just, you can just tell she's angry, but her eyebrows and her makeup was on point. And people are just going through and like she's just like looking at her, she's like next, and then I get up there and she's like and then I look at her and she's like, how are you? And I'm like, not as good as those eyebrows are looking. Damn. And she just smiled, dude.
And that's, I mean, I would say that, you know, in our community, that's a very powerful thing. I mean, I argue with my therapist a lot, and kind of what you were saying was we're kind of a piecemeal of the perception of other people. And I believe that my community shapes me. I totally and utterly believe that. And so for us to have a community of people, one, that aren't going to bullshit us and kind of tell us when we are, you know, whether it's, you know, gaining weight and trying to find a loving and compassionate way to transmit that. But then also when someone is doing well is like, this is noticeable. Yeah. You know, Chad's disciplines are insane. How old are you, Chad?
26.
26. He goes to bed and wakes up at 5 a.m.
Yikes.
And I know. He's a maniac, but I notice it and I try and tell him, wow, you are well disciplined. He eats well. So you get into shape. People start complimenting you. How much weight do you lose?
So when I started, I was 220 with a 30% body fat.
How tall are you?
I say 6 foot. I'm like really 5'11" and like 2 quarters, like
we'll
3
call
quarters.
You 6 foot here.
Yeah,
you
I almost said 2 quarters. Like that's not a half. What the fuck? Yeah, I say 6 feet, and usually it slides. The hair kind of gets me to 6 feet.
I could see that.
Yeah, so I'll roll with that. Real quick aside, if you make a TSA person laugh, you have magical powers. So like, congratulations, that's wild.
Chad literally can connect with any human on earth.
Yeah,
it's almost frustrating. I don't want to build this up too much because it's been a hard point in my life is to get Chad out of anywhere in a timely basis, because Chad will connect on such a deep emotional level with people. Yeah, it's frustrating to me. We work together at times, and we'll work with people. And my whole life I've thought, man, I'm likable. Because people tend to talk with me. Never have I worked with someone that I could unquestionably say people like him more. Yeah, it's like people don't trust.
It's kind of rough. You're just like, God damn it! Like, why? What does he have that?
It's like Chad's like an uncle to everyone that they love. It's just like it's like, come on in, Chad.
Yeah, you got to teach me, dude. Because I like people like me generally. I feel like, right? Like, or at least they don't hate me. So I don't know. Maybe I can learn something about that. And also, to your point, like, there were people that told me, like, dude, you're getting a little bit bigger. Like, what's going on? I remember one of them like would tell me like bluntly, like, dude, you're getting like you're having a couple extra servings every day, aren't you? Right? And like, and it wasn't in this like antagonistic shaming way. It was just like, yeah, man, these are what the facts are.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh fuck, like, all right, cool. Like I've been like lucky enough to have to be surrounded by people like that for a long time who like are comfortable enough to be honest and open with me, and I'm able to hear that in a way that's like, oh, they're not just trying to talk shit, like this is a real thing, like maybe I should take a look at this.
Well, and fucking Chad was talking about it last week, was like when you hit that precipice of change, normally what's come before that is a bit of, and for me it always comes out as anger. Someone will say something and I'll immediately be defensive about it, and then but I'll take it home, I'll take it home and I'll think about it. And it's like, if fucking change was easy, that wouldn't even be worth anything. It's like, if I haven't been in the gym in 3 years, if I think for a fucking second that if I start going to the gym it's going to be comfortable, I'm out of my goddamn mind. But that's what's going to be necessary for me to change and to you'd say recondition myself, and that happens in the emotional world, that happens in everything. So that precipice of change is usually because of some conflict.
Yeah, it's usually pain, right? It's like
it
some
has-
sort of like internal emotional pain, right? And the wild thing though is like 2-3 months in, it was the opposite. Where like if I didn't go to the gym, I felt off.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, this is fucked up. I gotta figure this out. I gotta go and like get this part of my routine in, right? So I go from 220, 30% body fat to 180 and 10% in a span of 6 months. And then my cousin was getting married in this island called Mauritius. It's off the coast of Madagascar. And it was time to like go to this wedding. I went with my family and we're on the beach. It's December, but it's on the other side of the world and it's like in the southern hemisphere. And one of those reasons is why it was warm in December over there. So we go to this fucking island off the coast of Madagascar in December where it's like 80 degrees and I'm able to like go on the beach and like not have a shirt on and feel completely content and comfortable,
Yes.
right?
Oh
And it was
my
like,
god! I can't even begin to explain the amount of like little things I've had to do my entire life.
Yeah.
Like I've had to wear double.
do you wear a shirt in a
shirts.
pool?
I used to.
right, yeah,
I used to, but now I let it all hang out. But like there was like certain things like I had to wear boxer briefs because I could pull them up over my gut and then they can make it a little bit smaller. I always had to wear 2 shirts when
Yo,
I was younger.
You know what? That you're ahead of your time because there's been like people talking about this now about how yoga pants are not supposed to cover your stomach, and like there was a big backlash about that. So I just feel like you were ahead of your time by pulling the boxer briefs above the stomach.
And people would be like, "Yo, why are your underwear so high? Why do you have a wedgie right now?"
You're having a couple extra servings every day, aren't you? Nice.
But yeah, man, like little things like that, dude. Like my entire life were always it's like just became ingrained into who I was. Like I had to do these things a certain way because I felt so bad about myself constantly.
Yeah.
You know, and like at one point I grew a really, really big beard because I wanted to hide my fat fucking face. You know what I mean? That's what it was, dude. You know, and I just dealt with that for so long. And like I was never able to like I had all those wasted attempts, right? I remember when I was like maybe, I don't know, 17 or 18, I convinced my dad to buy me the Tony Horton's 30-minute workout thing with the tapes and the resistance bands, and I did it for like a week.
What was the acronym? There was like PDX.
I know what you're talking about.
P90X.
P90X. Okay.
P90X.
So was it like that?
It was something along those lines. Made
That
by
shit is
this
tough.
How long did you stay with it?
a week.
Yeah.
A week. I just I never did it. You know what I mean? Because like the idea of like trying to change my entire lifestyle was just so difficult
And
then-
daunting.
and
Dude,
daunting.
inertia is powerful. Like inertia is really fucking powerful. There's been times even after that where like PUBG came out and I was playing 6 hours a day and like getting outside of the house,
Gamers.
like that wasn't gonna happen, right? Like I was that's what I did. I got home from work, I played PUBG for 6 hours, and like, you know, shit changed. Like I got a little bit bigger, I got a little bit more disconnected from people, and like fucking, I don't know, a year ago I was like kind of miserable, low key, right?
Yeah.
And like I had to change that inertia in order to get to a place where I was like, all right, cool, this is okay, right? But I think that like the underlying kind of opinion or position or theory or whatever you want to call it is like there are things within my control. So if I'm unhappy with something, if there's something within my control that can change that,
Right.
then it's basically just a decision that I need to make and then put the action behind that decision.
And
right?
trust.
Like I just need the information and then I need to be able to take that action.
Beautiful.
So there's no fucking reason for me to sit with something that I can control.
Well, let's loop this back around.
Yeah.
So, as far as connection,
Yeah.
you've obviously had, and I could go into connection issues as well, but I'm married now, and so it's been.
Congratulations.
And thank you so
Yeah.
much. It really is. She's
was a great
my
wedding.
better half. And so, for you, what are you doing today, if anything? And it's okay not to be. We don't have. By the way, for our listeners, we don't have this scripted. We don't know, but for as far as connection with people, maybe it's friends, maybe it's women.
Yeah.
What are you doing today? Are you working on that? Are you doing therapy for it? Are you dating? What's going on with your connections?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, right? I've like compartmentalized my life my entire life, right? So I have like family over here, and then I
Right.
have like work over here, and then I have like friends and social over here, right? And they don't really mix much. And they've started to a little bit recently. Not work as much because that's just weird to me, but whatever. So a couple of things, right? The first thing was the self. Like it sounds fucking cliche and like, oh, you gotta do the self work and like that kind of shit, right? But like it's pretty accurate, right? Like if I feel miserable about myself, I'm going to carry that energy into everything. And then all of a sudden, like anything that's ambiguous, I'm going to take as a slight, right? Like if you don't fucking walk up to me when I see you at a party or whatever and like, be like, oh, fuck, Danny, what's up? Like I'm gonna be like, oh, this motherfucker's ignoring me because he doesn't like me, blah, 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 right? And it's like this bullshit like thing that my head says because I'm weird. So, you know, like the first thing was like, all right, cool. What are the things I need in order for me to feel comfortable with myself, like solo, right? So like getting into shape, eating healthy, like having a good like job or like something that I'm like goals, some ambition.
Anything for the self-talk?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, I don't know. I've heard people do gratitude list or anything like that. I've never been able to do that. I have people are like,
want to.
do morning affirmations.
Yeah, I've wanted to do those.
So kind of intrinsically, you fixed the weight stuff and the self-talk started to change?
Yeah, it was like I wasn't doing shit, dude. Like I said, I would go to work, and I wasn't doing shit at work, right? Like I just literally just passed the time. And then I would get home, and then I'd play video games for like 5 hours, and then I'd go to sleep, and then I would do the same thing the next day.
Yeah.
Right? And like I wasn't doing anything. And now like I leave the house at like 8 a.m. now, 9 a.m. if I'm being honest, and I get back at like 11, right? And now it's like, all right, I go to work and I'm like being productive and doing things. And then on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I have class because I'm like learning a bunch of stuff to like improve my skill set and like try to gain some sort of like talents in order to use them in other areas.
Yep.
I'm going to the gym regularly. I'm like meal prepping and eating
How often
healthy.
is regularly?
4 times a week.
Yeah.
So I go Monday,
Okay.
Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Awesome.
Right. And it's like a scheduled, like I literally have to schedule my life now. It's wild. And then, so a year ago, I was like in kind of this area of like, man, I'm not doing anything. I feel blah, blah, blah. And my roommate, Gene, was just like, dude, come play volleyball. There's a bunch of people that come play volleyball.
Yeah.
Like, you don't feel connected with anybody. Like, you should probably come do this. So I go. I've never played volleyball in my life. I fucking look forward to Mondays now. Like that's the funnest thing I do in my week is go and play volleyball with a bunch of people who I didn't really know beforehand, and like it's a really good time, right? And I'm like doing things with other people. Also, like I'm able to. I have a pretty good like living situation right now with the people I live with, where I'm able to be open in terms of like, yeah, this is what's going on right now. Like I feel miserable. I feel disconnected. I feel great. Like whatever is going on, right? And I can be honest and open and like receive that love or that feedback or whatever it is, that suggestion of, hey, this is probably what you should do. I've been able to like take a bunch of trips with my family, and like I was never really connected with them that closely, honestly. But like we went to Mauritius together. We went to Jamaica together. And like, you know, naturally, like you get closer with that type of stuff. So like, I don't know, like, you know, my nephew's, or not my nephew, my little cousin's, in the hospital with cancer right now. And like, you know, that sucks. But one of the byproducts of that is like, we go to the hospital frequently and like, we're there together and like we interact and that kind of stuff. I don't know, man, just being a part of life, I guess. Like, I don't know how to boil that down into like a sound bite, but it's just like taking some sort of action, taking
Tons
suggestion.
of micro activity.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of micro activity, and it's like it all started, I think, with open dialogue with people that were close to me.
Wow.
Right?
This again.
Yeah. Just like being open to like, hey, this is what's going on, and they're like, you should try this. It worked for me.
Oh my God.
All right, cool. It worked for you. Let me try it. Let me see what happens. Right?
Transparency.
Yeah. And it's like hard, right? Because like it's you know, like how if I'm worried about you judging me, if I'm worried about if I'm not comfortable with myself, I'm gonna be worried about how you perceive me. So I can't be transparent and open with you. I don't know, man. This is like shit I think about on like a regular basis. Just wild.
Well, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And so in my mind, what I've kind of heard you tell me is, and so for me, I know connection has always been really, really tough. As far as, you know, how close do I get with people? How do I even deal with that? How do we work on it? And the micro activities is really insightful for me to think about everything that I put in my life mattered it directly affected my connection with other people. And to hear that as you've thrown positive and positive and positive into these other areas, it kind of have just, you know, slid into that. As far as relationships with women, I don't know if you ducked it or
I probably ducked it.
You ducked it.
I probably did, yeah.
Are you
Let's go
feeling
back to
like
it. Hey, whatever.
Are you feeling like are you in a position right now where you're dating? Are you hoping to date? Are you looking for that connection?
Yeah, no, like I want to have a family at some point, right? Like I want to be married with kids at some point.
Holy smokes.
Absolutely, 100%, right? I don't think I'm capable of having. First off, I don't like all of that stuff is like awkward to me in terms of like, all right, are we just talking? Are we dating? Like, what does that look like? What are the expectations? And like my head runs with that type of shit. So like every time I'm on a date, I'm like, am I doing the right thing? What are they thinking right now? Are they impressed? Are they happy? Like my mind is racing that fast, right? Like I feel like I'm talking pretty fast right now, and that's how my mind is racing during that time, right? I don't think I am capable currently of having a successful relationship, right? And that like sounds sad, right? But I think it's pretty honest, right? So someone I know introduced me to this thing called attachment styles, right? And it's this test on Psychology Today that you take. So I take this test, and it says you have a fearful avoidant attachment style, right? So like the theme is someone gets too close and I run, or there's this fear of abandonment, and when that gets too high, I also disengage and withdraw, right? And it comes from probably like how I grew up and having multiple people come and live with us for a couple of years and then take off, and being an observer in my own home, and like all this stuff from childhood, right? So like that thing makes it really challenging to have like a successful intimate relationship. So like my relationships, even like not with women, like with friends or family or whoever, they get to a level of intimacy and then they stop, right? There's very few people, like I can count them on one hand, that get below a certain level of intimacy, right? So my relationships are mile wide, inch deep. So like that sucks. Like that's not cool. Like it's not fun. It's not ideal. Like, you know, when I was younger, I used to be like, oh man, like if you fuck me over, I can cut you off, and it's not a big deal to me. And it's like, that's not that tight, right? Like that's not a badge of honor, right? So literally over the last like 2-3 weeks, I've had like consultations with therapists. I've been to therapy a couple of times, and I don't do well with therapists that need me to lead the session.
Yeah, you're looking for someone to challenge you.
I need someone to challenge me, to ask me questions, to drive me places, to try to logically explain to me like this is why this is happening, and this is what you can do to try to like get past this.
Yeah.
Right. And then like also like cognitive behavioral therapy. I don't know if that's like the right modality for me, because like I can, you know, I either see where you're going with your line of questioning and I anticipate the answers you're trying to hear, or I don't know, there's just a bunch of things. So like I'm interested in EMDR, right? Because like there is likely some trauma that is causing some of this stuff as well, right?
Yep.
So long story short, I have another appointment next week. There's another dude that I'm gonna go for a first appointment like the week after, and I'm essentially interviewing therapists to try to identify one that I can connect with.
Probably good, actually. Yeah, it's probably good for someone like you're an observer. You got to trust that what you're getting into is actually going to help you before you do it.
Yeah, because I've been to a couple people, like 3 different ones, like 3 times each, and by the 3rd session, I'm like, yeah, man, I don't think I'm gonna get much out of this.
Yeah, you're there to work on connections, and you're not connecting with the therapist. You really do have some.
Also, it's really weird because like, I don't know. You've been to therapy. Is it weird talking about this stuff?
How do you know I've been to therapy?
You said it earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, man,
I'm observant.
No, I'm. Yes, no, I love therapy. Is it weird to talk to people about
like your first couple of sessions? Is it weird going into the therapist and being like, "This is the shit that's fucking me up"?
Yeah, no, it's hard because, like you said, you're anticipating the mold that they're going to build around what you say. Mm-hmm. So I'll say something, and then I'll not justify it, but I'll kind of show her that I can rebut the justifications as well. So I'll say it, and then I'll say, I understand that you probably think that this is why I think that way, but this is why I don't think that way. So, but my therapist, I love her. She's a 65, 70-year-old woman, and she stands her ground really hard, and it's exactly what I needed. And
have you ever been to a guy therapist?
I don't think I have. I've only had women therapists.
That's one thing that started happening in this process is like one of the appointments was with a guy, and one of the upcoming ones will be. And I'm just curious about like, I don't know, for some reason when I think of therapy, I think of like nurturing female presence, right?
Yeah.
So like
I've been to a male masseuse.
that's very different.
And let me tell you.
Different type of therapy.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
that experience, you don't want to go back to females after that.
Ended happily, or what?
experience.
Did it end happily?
I felt good.
This is perfect.
For
All right,
sure.
so we're wrapping up. What I would say I've heard is if I'm getting challenged in my life or I'm having issues and things are coming up and I'm wanting to change something, that what I'm looking at is or it gives me an opportunity to evaluate what's going on with me. And the best way for me to change it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is start to fix what I can control. So look at what I can and can't control about this situation. I mean, some of us are just built differently. Some things we're just going to have to accept. But if we're absolutely doing everything that we can that's within our control, then it might start to affect these other areas. Because it sounds like with a lot of your connection, you're kind of still delving into it, but it sounds like a lot of it has rectified itself through a lot of the changes that you put into your life.
Yeah, I think I'm like, I don't know, let's say 75% of the way there. But if I had to put like a thesis around,
Do you ever
like,
want to get there?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Like absolutely.
You're going to
dude.
keep growing though.
Yeah, I don't think there's a peak
100%,
or a
yeah.
stopping point, right? But I definitely want to continue to like improve my satisfaction and quality of life in these areas, right? 100%. And I think it's kind of the same theme over and over again, right? The first step is awareness, right? And awareness can come from myself. It can come from people that are close to me that are able to be honest with me and that sort of thing. But the first step is awareness. And then the next step is, okay, identification of the things that I can control, right? What can I do, right? So like if we take the me used to being fat thing, it's like, all right, cool. I'm aware that I'm overweight now. And then the next step is identifying what I can control, my level of exercise and my eating habits. And then it's acquiring the information necessary, right? This is how I structure my diet. This is how I work out. This is how often I work out. And then it's just dedication and commitment, right? And I don't know, typically there's like a balance between pain and comfort. And when the pain is higher than my level of comfort in staying where I'm at, I'm going to continue to change to get rid of that pain. And that's kind of been my theme.
And what we can do for each other, also to just segue with that, is it sounded like some big moments in your transition were other people's perceptions, were their compliments.
Yeah.
And they're pushing you towards that direction. So as equally powerful as it is for you, what you can culminate as far as willingness is for us as a community, when we start to see these changes, to realize that we have to be a part of that person's change as well. I mean, or if we are, it might just continue. Because I can tell you, sometimes it's hard when you're trying to change. Chad was talking about that earlier. Everything. And it's like when someone comes in and they kind of just help you, and they don't have to like coddle you or wake you up. It probably would be counterproductive for that. But those compliments as well were.
No, that reinforcement means like it takes no effort to give someone some reinforcement or a positive statement or whatever, some support, right? It takes zero effort to be like, yeah, man, hey, you're looking good today. But
all
you're having
in
a
this
couple
together.
extra servings every day, aren't you? Right? And that was a helpful statement, right? But it takes no effort, and the impact, like the effort to impact ratio is wild, right? So I don't know, man. Tell someone something that they need to hear or will help them get to where they're going, and the world will be a significantly better place.
What a beautiful way to wrap this up.
That was wonderful, Danny. Thank you. Thank you to everybody in the room. Yeah, if there's anything we can take from that, man, is just a simple hello to somebody that looks like they need it, and taking that small action. And you don't know how you're going to possibly affect that person's life in the positive light. But that was Last We Got with Danny, Anthony, and Dr. David Slack, and myself, Mr. Chudsy. Please tune in later this week for some more great content. We love you guys. Thanks for
love you guys.
listening.
Thank you.